Hi. I hope you like my song. I really struggled with that. We had a team vote. There were a lot of options thrown around. First and foremost, I wanted to thank everyone with Revel for having me. This is amazing. I've been really privileged to be part of lots of different events in the space, and this one is the best. So round of applause for them. This is really special. I'll also say very candidly, I was a little anxious about following the two other speakers. They're both tremendous, as I'm sure you gathered. So I'm hoping to kind of round out the speaking sessions with some practical, what do you do from here, where do you go from here? And I'll obviously be around after too if you have follow-up questions after the panel, so you can come and find me from there. So as they mentioned, I'm Ashley. I'm the CEO and founder of Point 7 Group. We are a consulting firm. We have offices in Columbus, Ohio, Denver, Colorado, Los Angeles. Our next office will most likely be in Boston, but I really love New York, so we'll see. It could be a toss-up. I started the company at the tail end of 2015. Before that, I was the head of operations, sales, and marketing for one of the largest vertically integrated cannabis companies at the time in Colorado. And it was a crazy job. I was actually hired as the head of marketing, which quickly became the head of whatever has to happen on that day. So it was sort of an epic crash course on cannabis. I had my hands in literally everything from trimming to packaging to how many grams can we produce from this extraction machine that I don't know anything about. And at the time, it was obviously frustrating and very difficult, but it was the ultimate crash course as far as learning the space in a very hands-on way. So I was there for a while. I resigned at the end of 2015. They were my first client when I left, so we left on good terms. And I say that because it's a very small industry, so be aware of the way that you enter and exit relationships as you navigate all of this. So I started Point 7, recognizing basically that everyone in the country was trying to figure out how to do this the right way. You have different states and cities and counties cherry picking regulations from different places. So what worked over here, and will this apply in my city, and will this translate basically from one market to the next? And at the time, I recognized that there were very few people who had the hands-on operational experience that I had, and also a background in writing. I'm not an attorney. I was actually gearing up to go to law school. I was starting to study for the LSAT and getting ready for that. And a professor of mine was like, do not do that. This industry is way more exciting than law school at the time. Like, just kind of charge forward. So I'm glad I took that advice. So Point 7's been around since the beginning of 2016. I can't really believe that we're in our fourth year. It's really shocking in some ways. We've grown substantially as far as our offering goes because our clients' needs have grown, obviously. As the space is expanding and there's just more to do, we've really needed to kind of add to our offering now. So it's been an exciting journey. We are 100% women-owned, and our entire executive, thank you. Yes, I'm proud of that as well. Our entire executive leadership team are women as well, and we're very conscious about the partners that we bring in. I don't know how many of you are small business owners, but if you are a small business owner, you can certainly appreciate that when you start your company, you kind of take whatever business is there at the time. You're trying to get things off the ground. So it's been really cool to reach a place where we choose our clients. I won't work with you if you don't share our values and if you're not committed to the same things that we're committed to. And I'm very comfortable turning away work now if you're not in this space for the right reasons. So I think that's kind of a good segue into some of the things that I wanted to talk to you about as far as getting involved in the space, whether that's from a licensing capacity or through the ancillary business side. We can skip over that. I'll tell you quickly about us just from a experience standpoint. So we've now worked in over 60 regulated markets, I think 23 different states, a couple of countries, and then Michigan and California are doing local licensing at the city and county level very differently from the state. So each city and county have their own programming and their own applications. So we've been very, very busy, coast to coast, working with groups across the board. We've served over 100 different clients. Most of them we've had for multiple years, which I'm very proud of, where they're coming back and they have needs now in additional spaces. And this is a kind of a broad overview of what we do. But at this point, like I said, we started very heavy on the licensing side. We've moved into a lot of other components of the space, from brand design to even exit strategy. One of the things I tell our clients when we're getting going is that, this is probably true of a lot of businesses and industries, but especially in cannabis, when you're writing your business plan, we're also writing your exit strategy in tandem with that. And I think that that's a little bit interesting, I think, for clients getting started. It doesn't quite add up when you're getting going, but this space is moving so quickly that you really do need to think about who you want to be in the industry and where you see yourself in 2 years and 3 years and 5 years and 2 months, because it is moving that fast. So we're really proud of the fact that we can now work with our clients through this sort of spectrum of needs, getting them into the space pre-licensure, while also helping them think about who they want to be from an identity perspective and what that's going to look like when they ultimately exit. Well, I'm not sure why that's cut off, but one of the pieces I really wanted to spend some time on today is what goes into being successful as an applicant. But before we even get there, I think that my biggest advice for everyone in the room, I saw by the show of hands earlier that everyone's really excited to get into cannabis, especially here in the Northeast. I was born and raised in Boston. Sorry about that. But it's really, really special to see cannabis programming and regulatory structures moving east. A lot of our work has been on the west side of the country for the last few years, so it's exciting to come back here. But one of the, I think, biggest misconceptions when we start working with new groups or when we're involved in events like this is that people are excited to be part of the space. Totally get it. I am too. But I think that a lot of folks feel that to get into this, they need to be thinking about cultivation, manufacturing, or retail. And those are great paths to go down. Licensures, it's exciting, and yeah, there's a great upside. But there is an enormous amount of risk. And, despite the fact that I want to see this space far more inclusive and I want to see the barriers to entry reduced wherever they can be, I don't write all the rules, right? So, I think that my biggest piece of advice above all else is to be very pragmatic about, who you are, your experience, what your team brings to the table, and beyond that, really be honest with yourself about where your gaps lie. Be comfortable knowing where your weaknesses are, because the regulators are going to find them and your competitors are going to find them. So if you don't check all of the boxes, and we'll talk about what those are, think about what other pieces of this space you could touch on with the background and the education and the work experience you already have. We talk to people all the time about keeping your career but changing your industry. So if you're an incredible marketer or accountant or someone with an extensive IT background, there is 100% a place for you in this space. I'm a small business and I'm an ancillary provider. I do not own licenses at this point. And I've done well in that, and I've been able to build a business that represents who I am as a person and the values that matter to me. So I think that it begins with understanding who you want to be and what your goals are, and being comfortable if the reality is you're not cut out for licensure. I know that may sound discouraging, and I struggle a lot with the line between candor and discouragement. I'm not here to tell any of you what you should or shouldn't do, but I've watched far too many small businesses really struggle through this process when they could have probably done very, very well if they stayed in the lane they were in and just pivoted into the space more strategically. So I'd love to talk to more of you about that. The other piece that goes with it is if you're sitting in this room right now and you feel very strongly about your ability in a certain piece of this, whether it's your financial ability or your local involvement in a certain place, there are other people in this room right now that have skills and strengths that you do not have. Some of you would be much stronger as applicants if you partnered up. So I don't exactly know how to facilitate that. I'm certainly happy to chat with the Revel team a little bit more. We have a list back there if you want to add your email, and we can try to kind of match make a little bit. But again, it begins and ends with being very honest with yourself about where those strengths and weaknesses lie, because this is an extraordinarily grueling process, and it's a very competitive process, as most of you know. So I wanted to spend most of my time here talking about what I believe are the most important tenets or pillars of a successful application. We, like I said, we specialize in developing winning applications. So we help you with your business strategy. We will actually write the application for you. We'll review your real estate. We'll design your building. We'll train your staff. We'll help you find your staff. We can kind of support all of those things. And I also know that the they do everything piece can be an eyebrow raiser. That happened very organically. It happened over a span of many years, and our team is basically 50% cannabis operators, folks who have actually been in these facilities, growing the plant, selling these products, manufacturing these products, and the other half of our team are traditional business folks with project management background, graphic design, CAD design. So I think that our success is really attributed to that balance that we have within our staff and the knowledge that they bring to the table. But at the end of the day, we can only do so much. There's other parts of this that are very much in your hands and not in ours. We can try to shepherd you through this, and we can give you, pointers and pushback, and we can be really honest with you. But at the end of the day, if you don't have all of these parts, especially in markets like New York and New Jersey, you probably will not be successful going through licensing. I really appreciate what's going on in the Northeast as it relates to social equity. We've been very, very involved in trying to be part of the Massachusetts social equity program, and I really love the conversations that are happening here locally in New York. So, there's a lot of opportunity here, and again, I don't mean to discourage. I just want to be really honest about what this industry is. You heard earlier from some of our other speakers that the space 3 years ago and the space now are very different. It is a lot of big business, and it is a lot of money on the line, and just be very aware of that when you go into it and make the right decision for yourself. So the 5 pillars to me that go into building a successful application are up here, and if you want to learn more from us later, Lindsay, my colleague, is in the back. She can grab your email. We can send all of this to you. But I want to go through these. So starting with financials, developing your financials, obviously part of that is understanding the hard costs that go into licensing, whether those are licensing fees or the real estate fees that you're going to need to secure the properties. But there's also a lot of merit to the rainy day fund in cannabis. So when you look at markets like New Jersey or Illinois, where the patient numbers are not coming along at the rate that we expected, years ago in Illinois, you had limited licensing model, number of companies getting involved that really struggled because the condition list was not improved or added to, so there weren't enough conditions to support a base of people to support those businesses. So your financials go well beyond designing and building this infrastructure and the walls of your building and permitting and licensing. You really need to understand how to have that reserve cash set aside for the unknowns, because there 100% will be unknowns. Every single person in this room who has operated a cannabis business or been part of one will tell you their horror stories. You heard some of them already. So being prepared for those is a necessity if you want to be successful in this. Moving into political and local involvement, I can't really emphasize this one enough, especially because if I am your consultant on this project, I can't do this for you. I can help you understand what this means. I can sit next to you and I can present to your city or county or walk you through meetings. I can review letters that you're going to send out, but at the end of the day, authentic community involvement cannot be established in 6 weeks because you're pursuing a cannabis license. We've watched people do this all over the country where they throw money at a city or they join a board last minute or they support this and that. I believe in doing things very sincerely and from a very genuine place. So if you're trying to move into a market, whether that's a city, county, or state, and you don't have any affiliation with that place, you're not going to do well there. So you either need to develop that quickly, which again, I don't see as a winning move, because I think that you can smell out very, very fast when someone's just trying to buy their way into something. My vote is that you find people to add to your team, equity partners in your business that have the local involvement and the ties that you are lacking. I would not advise any small business to move forward licensing-wise if you don't have those affiliations and if you're not emphasizing that. So it can look very differently, but if you're making your first philanthropic donations 6 weeks before you're submitting your application, I feel like you can see that on paper, and I don't think it bodes well for your application overall. So do things, from a good heart space. Work in communities that you care about, form real relationships with them, and understand that relationships truly can't be bought. I know it feels that way sometimes in the space, and it's happened in certain markets where it was pretty much bought. But we have the ability to change that by doing things authentically, and I can't emphasize that enough. It's super, super important, and it doesn't matter which consultant you hire. We can't write that for you if it isn't real. So start that now if you are adamant about applying for one of these licenses. Moving into your team. So another question that we get asked a lot is, do we need cannabis consultants? Do we need people with cannabis experience? I think that the balance and a really good team in this space is part business and traditional business. I don't care what that means. It could be that you come from banking, or you come from restaurants, or you come from, tourism. It doesn't matter. If you have the business acumen that helps you, run a business day to day, where you really understand day-to-day operations in a traditional business environment, that's super, super important. But I think you need to pair that with folks that have extensive, cannabis experience in the license type that you're looking for. On the real estate side, this one is tricky for a lot of folks, especially those that are trying to bootstrap their way through it. Every place is different. Some require you to have real estate, others do not. On the real estate front, best advice is to really understand the zoning and your proximity laws as it relates to those properties. I had a group pretty recently, they're like, yeah, our property's perfect. It's not near any schools. And we called ahead and we called the church that was 500 feet away or 300 feet away that had a daycare and a school in the church. And that property wasn't so perfect anymore. So do your homework and be critical of your own business, because they're going to be. So if you're not, willing to rip your own business to shreds and find the weaknesses, you're not going to do well. Do that ahead of time. Be humble. Don't have any ego in this, and you'll do better than the others. And the last part is the application. So that's what we specialize in. We're there to quarterback this, pull it together, write something exceptional, and really bring your vision to life on paper. But if you don't have those other parts, it's really difficult for us to do that piece. I can write you a record-keeping plan. I can write you an inventory control plan. There's no spirit there. So if you don't really know why you're pursuing this and you're not sure why this is for you, I think that comes through in the application. So, I guess to close, because I'm getting the Oscar music coming on in a moment, really think about who you want to be and, your general identity as a business owner in this space, because as discouraging as some of that may have sounded, I do believe that there's a place and there's a seat at the table for everyone here. But it begins with you and your true understanding of yourself and what matters to you and why you get up in the morning and why you're starting this in the first place. So if after everything you've heard and all the questions and answers, you still want to pursue a license, come talk to us. We'll have complimentary phone calls with pretty much everyone and continue this. We want to see all of you here. Just give a lot of thought to why, and that will make the path to this a lot more meaningful, I think, for you and for the people that you're working with. So with that, thank you for your time, and I will talk to you throughout the night.